If you count yourself among those that are only familiar with Ron Perlman's Hellboy from the Guillermo del Toro films, or Michael Woolley's depiction in Injustice 2, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Hellboy's been around since 1991. Created by Mike Mignola, a concept for Hellboy first appeared in 1991 in a pamphlet for Great Salt Lake Comic Con. Then he showed up in Grey and Yellow Glory in the 4th issue of a fanzine in Italy called Dime Press. Officially, however, Hellboy's first appearance was in 1992's San Diego Comic-Con Comics number 2. In color, and in the form he would keep for the rest of his history, Hellboy then appeared in the 21st issue of a John Byrne title called Next Men. He has since gone on to spawn entire volumes of additional stories and an entire Mignola-verse rife with a rich, deep mythology. The first 2 films came about not because of the raging popularity of Hellboy. It was due to the fact that director Guillermo del Toro is a longtime fan of Mignola's work and pursued its adaptation. The 2004 film was roughly based on Siege of Destruction, and The Golden Army was an original work by del Toro set in the Mignola-verse. So, in anticipation of the 2019 franchise reboot, it's a perfect time to dive into the comic book history of Hellboy, the Blood Queen, and just who this red demon is. Before we begin though, let me thank you for watching JLS Comics and pressing play. If you like videos like this, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you want, the subscribe button as well. I upload new comic book and superhero content weekly. Alright, with that out of the way, let's jump into our Hellboy story. Hellboy, drawn as a big red humanoid demon with horns that he files down his stumps and a giant stone forearm, make Hellboy instantly recognizable and different from other comic book protagonists. His physical attributes all harken back to the fact that he is a demon or half-demon. Mentally, though, he is the equivalent of an adolescent, a being born of innate conflict and contradiction. Hellboy is guff and yet amiable. He's a demon with a good heart, touchy and yet funny. In an interview, Mignola said of Hellboy's personality, "The personality is really much more me, but some of the physical stuff is my father's, so it's a bizarre combination of my father's physicality. I mean, my father missed World War II, but he was a Korean War guy, a tough guy. One of those guys who would come home with blood all over him from getting his hand stuck in the piece of machinery. He was so leathery, and you could strike one of those old-fashioned matches off of his calloused hands. So, I knew I wanted Hellboy to feel like this, but his personality, the way he addresses situations, the way he talks, is just the way I would talk. I had never written before, so the only way I knew to write a character's personality was to use my own personality." End quote. Hellboy carries a massive handgun. The gun was given to him by a World War II era superhero, one of the team that was there the day he appeared in the Scottish church named Torch of Liberty, who incidentally was created by John Byrne. In the Del Toro films, his handgun is known as the Good Samaritan, but the 22mm 4-round weapon is always jamming with its custom ordnance and causing issues for him because he has to fire it from his normal hand and load the chamber with his cumbersome Hand of Doom. His trench coat is filled with totems and charms and mystical artifacts that grant him various extra-worldly powers, so it's not just a style choice. That coat, with so many pockets that Rob Liefeld would be proud, served as a storage system. He frequently teamed with fire and water. That is, Abe Sapien, a humanoid aquatic creature, and Elizabeth Sherman, a woman with pyrokinetic abilities. Where did he come from? Anung Urama, which means upon his brow is set a crown of fire, as revealed by goddess Hecate from Wake the Devil, was a demon who was conjured by Nazi occultists led by Grigory Rasputin, a mad czarist from Stalin's Russia, and brought to Earth in a remote location in Scotland on December 23rd, 1944. But when the conjuring session concluded and the dust settled, there was nothing, and so Rasputin thought he'd failed. What he did not know, however, was that Allied forces had become aware of the Third Reich's occultist exploits and aspirations, and so they'd put together a black bag op to monitor and stop them. The Allied forces, led by First Sergeant George Whitman, were holed up in a church a few miles away from where Rasputin and his forces had been stationed to perform the ritual, and it was here that the little red demon appeared before them. In chain coffin, Hellboy revisited the church and had a vision of the past, and in the vision he sees a young woman, Sarah Hughes, and the demon, Prince Azael, on Walpurgisnacht. Azael and a 16-year-old Sarah copulated, conceiving Hellboy, the half-demon, in 1574. In Family Ties, we learn what happens next. The other princes of Hell had discovered Azael, and that his new baby had the Hand of Doom, so they tried to destroy Azael's family. To protect his son, Azael sent Hellboy to Earth, and this happened to be around the time that Rasputin performed his rituals that brought Hellboy to Earth in 1944. Azael chose Sarah Hughes due to her lineage. She's descended from a Sir Mordred, the illegitimate son of King Arthur Pendragon and Morgana Le Fay. This lineage makes Hellboy the rightful king of England and heir to the throne, and he even wielded the legendary sword Excalibur at one point, supporting this claim as only a true king is able to wield the mystical sword. Nimue, the Blood Queen, Lady of the Lake, also lived during the reign of King Arthur. She was known as the greatest of all witches, the witch who seduced and killed Merlin, sorcerer, and oracle to King Arthur himself. Nimue and Hellboy are therefore intrinsically tied together. In fact, she will appear, played by Milla Jovovich, in the 2019 David Harbour-led reboot of the Hellboy franchise, Hellboy, previously known as Hellboy Hellboy: Rise of the Blood Queen. Back in 1944, First Sergeant Whitman and his team rescued Hellboy, and the BPRD took him in, who he, at the age of 8 years old, ended up doing field work for, earning the name the world's greatest paranormal investigator. He was given the name Hellboy by a professor who was on the Allied mission to stop the Third Reich's occultists, named Professor Trevor Brutenholm. After the Third Reich fell to Allied forces, bringing World War II to a close, Hellboy continued to work as a field agent for the BPRD, continually coming to blows with countless cryptozoological beasts like werewolves and vampires and mermaids and mythological beings as well. At just 4 years old, per the miniseries BPRD 1948, that's when Hellboy began filing down his horns. He just wanted to be normal, folks. In the year 1952, the United Nations granted him honorary human status. It was later discovered that Grigori Rasputin was hibernating in a secret temple in the Arctic. Rasputin was the portal through which Ogdru-Jahad would enter the world and bring about the end of days. Ogdru-Jahad was the multi-headed demon beast from Revelations. Rasputin was manipulating events in an effort to draw Hellboy closer to him to fulfill the prophecy. Ultimately, it was Grigori Rasputin who told him he's destined to bring about the end of days, and his stone right hand is key to this fate, the right hand of doom. His hand was made by the Watchers, the first angels, created by God himself, the same people who made Ogdru-Jahad, and it's his hand, and only his hand, that can awaken the beast that will bring about the apocalypse. His stone hand is the one thing that can break down the walls that keep heaven and earth separate from the realm of hell. Hellboy, of course, rejected his destiny, and in fact, at one point he wanted to just cut his hand off, but Adrian Frost, son of another soldier present at his conjuring, convinced him to keep it as it might fall into the wrong hands. Pun fully intended. In this story, the Cavendish Hall incident, Abe Sapien, Hellboy's aquatically oriented teammate intervened, launching a harpoon through the air which struck Rasputin and went right through his chest. The pyro Liz Sherman unleashed an angry fiery firestorm, killing one of Ogdru-Jahad's children named Saduhem. An ancient witch named Baba Yaga once fought Hellboy, and during the fight lost an eye, and because of this she hates Hellboy and holds on to a centuries-long grudge against him. The other person who hates Hellboy is a fairy named Grugash. Because rescuing Alice Monaghan resulted in Grugash losing his fairy body, he also hates Hellboy. It was Grugash who dug up the Blood Queen's body and performed an ancient ritual to bring her back. In the Wild Hunt, Hellboy finds himself in an ancient hunt for giants who've been gathering as part of the Blood Queen's unholy army. It's because of Hellboy's Arthurian claim to the throne that he's the only one who can stop the Blood Queen. The Blood Queen's rise, his revelation of his roots as told by Hecate, and his conflict with Baba Yaga all come during a time when Hellboy had left the BPRD and was out on his own. This all culminated in a story called The Fury, leading directly into Hellboy's final arc called Hellboy in Hell, where ultimately Hellboy defeated Nimue, the Blood Queen, but with her dragging Hellboy's heart to hell. Mike Mignola ended Hellboy's story in 2016's Hellboy in Hell. Series ended with issue 10 with a touching, melancholic treatise on coming to terms with and accepting the end. So what lies ahead for the Big Red? Another movie, of course. The 2019 reboot, directed by Neil Marshall, draws inspiration from 3 stories, which I recommend: Darkness Calls, The Wild Hunt, and The Storm and the Fury. The movie, complete with its R rating, will walk the line between horror and fun comic book movie, and according to Mignola himself, remain more faithful to the source material and its predecessors. And that, my friend, is Hellboy. Did I miss something you feel is important? Have questions or an idea for a future history video? Let me know in the comments or tweet at comicsjls and I will add it to the list. As always, thanks for watching, subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.